Sifu has been out for almost 4 years and is known for its difficulty and high learning curve. For a gaming noob that likes to suffer for internet content, that's music to my ears, and I finally decided to play it. And to up the ante, I'm doing the age 20 challenge, a no death run. If I die at any point, I have to restart from the beginning and try again until I beat the game. Enjoy. First up is the squats, and after I take out the first 2 people guarding the entrance, I went exploring and found a metal pipe. That made taking out the rest of the people in the first section a whole lot easier. The same went for the folks in the next apartment complex until the pipe broke, but it didn't matter since these hands are licensed to kill and the old-fashioned fisticuffs finished the job. Things picked up in the hallway. The first set of fires were easy to take out, no surprises there. I started to pick up a sweat after the lady with the pipe gave me a grade 1 concussion, but we recovered and then gave her a 4-piece CTE combo and used her pipe to finish off the rest of the second set of fires. Reality set in when I entered this room with these two. Besides my best efforts to keep the run alive, I experienced my first death of the challenge, and I have to restart. A second one happened soon after. When I came back for round 2, I got instant stuns on both of them. The celebration was short-lived though, because in the courtyard, I died again. In the next go at it, I prioritized taking all the unarmed ones out first and avoid taking too many hits from the metal pipe. And then once I disarm him, I finish the rest of them off and we can move on. After we get an upgrade and take out the gang affiliated sumo wrestler, we get to the drug money room, and this was the hardest part of the squats in my opinion, and that includes the boss fight. This was the first major plateau of the game and I spent a lot of hours trying to get past it. I died about 10 times when it was all said and done with. What I did different this time was that I didn't let them overwhelm me, and I made sure not to corner myself as often as before. Doing those 2 things helped with the crowd control aspect, which is what made this hard in the first place. Next is the Skull Brothers, and I got mauled on my first try, and on my second. Third time's a charm though, and I managed to land a hit on both simultaneously, stunning one of them in the process, and that led to a takedown, and the next one went down soon afterwards. Surprisingly, I actually got through the warehouse on my first try. I didn't get out of it unscathed, but by following the strategy from the previous group section, it made handling this room easier. Things turned up a notch when this guy became a mini boss. I turned my attention to finishing off the rest of the group before I went back to take him on. We did trade blows with one another, but in the end, I prevailed. We get the final upgrade, and now we get to fight the first boss in Chinese Kill Bill, Bajar. I was doing good at the beginning of the fight with putting on damage. We went back and forth, trading 3-string combos for a bit. His moveset was 99% kicks, and the worst one to parry was the low kick. If I was more careful, I could have beaten his first phase on the first attempt. I need to parry his last kick and his flying jump kick that tracks me no matter how far I get away. This time I did just that, and it would set the tone for the rest of the fight. He would get a few hits off, but it would only be from one hit in the combo. He wasn't on the offensive much, and that gave me the edge I needed to take control of the fight. And after a few more landed combos, he moves into his second phase. It's like night and day. The aggressiveness he didn't have in his first phase came back, and the machete slice and flying kick took over half my health. I made the most out of my opportunities and got a few combos off that did a good amount of damage. I managed to stun him right here, but I backed off, and that was the dumbest decision I've ever made. I would have beaten him if I kept going. His resolve was damn near full, and it was going to be a matter of time before he went back on the offensive. And that's exactly what he did. Now I have to go through the squats all over again. Maybe it was beginner's luck. On this try, I took full control of the fight. I didn't let him overwhelm me like he did in the previous attempts. I was going to apply the pressure. The fact that the flying jump kick hits you no matter where you are is criminal, but I had enough health to take a couple of those shots, and they were far and few between, since I didn't give him many opportunities to do so. He did one last all-out attack, but that was all she wrote, and we can move on to the club. When we get inside the venue, I did my best to punch everyone to the beat of the music, but unfortunately, my opponents have no rhythm and weren't willing to cooperate. I didn't let them kill my vibe, but there was one person that wanted to get under my skin. The guy in the black. He ended up having more bark than bite, funny enough. I wanted to find the bat that I accidentally threw to help me with the next fight, but she didn't want me to have the advantage. The best way to learn her combos was to get kicked in the head multiple times until I figured out the timing of when to dodge. And I knew that meant that I had to die a couple times, and they predominantly came from the same combo string. This time around, I used my trusty bat to aid me in the fight, and I dodged both of her hammer kicks to finally get past, and I grabbed another upgrade. We head into the lounge next and clear out the first floor, then the second floor, and then rinse and repeat in the next room over. Getting past the bouncers was my next roadblock. I tried to use brute force, and that wasn't the way to go. I should have done what I did here. I separated them from each other and focused on one of them at a time, building up the resolve until it finally broke, and then repeat step 3 on the last one. Good thing that I can instantly take down one of them, because I couldn't deal with both. But one-on-one is a different story. I already had the experience from the first one to make this an easy fight. The first Shawn Disciple fight was the bane of my existence. He does the same 3 thrusting punches that I can't seem to get the timing down to parry. I didn't go down without a fight though. I managed to get a couple of hits off before he finished me off like a sick dog. I started to go insane after the 5th or 6th death because I couldn't figure out how to stop it. I said a prayer to RN Jesus and the game heard my prayer because I had all the momentum on this try. It wasn't a flawless victory, but I had enough health to take a couple hits from him and we can finally go to the burning. This girl with the red hair had it out for me. She followed me everywhere I went, and I put full responsibility on her for why I died. I made sure she was the first one out on my next attempt. I didn't use a weapon for a majority of the fight, and by this point the group fights weren't a major problem for me anymore. I had to fight another disciple, but this one had a staff, and in my opinion, the ones that have staffs are less of a threat than the unarmed ones. They can only use the staff, which eliminates those crazy moves, and their combos are way easier to parry. What's better than one disciple with an undodgeable combo? 2 disciples with an undodgeable combo. I had to catch one of them off guard to get an advantage. Now with the guy out of the picture, I could take my time with the girl. If I didn't have the staff, I probably would have lost again. Now we can fight Shawn. He is considered the hardest boss in the game, but to me, he's the simplest once I figured him out. On my first attempt, I made the mistake of fighting him with just fists for the majority of the time. And as you can see, I'm just chipping away at his health. But even without the staff, I was still putting some hurt on him. I got him down to about 3/4 of health before I picked up a staff. Once I picked up the staff, he started to take me seriously, and I knew it was only a matter of time before he would gain some momentum. He did his shoulder shove 3 times in a row, and that got me down to near death. He did me the pleasure of taking me out of my misery, and he killed me a couple times. I lost count after the 8th death, so whatever attempt this is, I was getting the shit kicked out of me in the beginning of the fight. But I started to get in the groove, and once that happened, he didn't stand a chance. My strategy was to get him on his back as many times as possible, and the light, heavy attack was my ticket to success. That's what I meant when I said that he was the simplest boss, because that combo worked every time. It kind of felt like I was cheating, and the best part was that he never got another hit on me. And now it was time for his second phase. The strategy stayed the same. Used a light heavy combo and an occasional leg sweep to keep him on his back. He added a couple of his own moves that he can chain together to make my life more difficult. He hit me with a couple of those and it brought my health down to below half. We went back and forth and it was a race to see who would get the last hit off first. Unfortunately for us, he would win that race, and I would die a couple more times to him until I lost count again. This time around, I got him down to a sliver of health, and without enough focus, I had to find a way to get past his defenses. He kept doing this sweep that I could never parry, and I was going to lose all my progress, but I finally did a successful parry, and that was the opening I needed to break through his defense, and I finally defeated Shawn, and we can move on to the museum. There's a lot of people here for it being a quarter till 10, but I guess they have a knack for art, and we're that important of a guest to me. Getting through the first couple of floors and exhibits were a breeze. With the overabundant amount of weapons to choose from, I had no problem getting through some of the more difficult rooms. I didn't always have a weapon on me. Sometimes I would forget to take one, but it was nice knowing that I could go back to the last room and get one if I wanted. The first worrisome challenge we face is in the exhibit on the 3rd floor. The charging defensive lineman took a good chunk of my health out. I had to use all my crowd control skills to get out of here alive. Taking out the body positive gentleman became my main focus once I thinned out the hurt. With one down, the other received the worst 4-piece combo he could ever get. Afterwards, I was able to finish up the rest of the room. The next room was no better. I had my first encounter with my mortal enemy, the bodyguard. I would have won the fight if I threw the knife at him, but sadly I didn't, and I got my first death of the museum. When I came back for round 2, I took all my anger out on him, and I didn't give him a chance to breathe or react to my barrage of slices. I got a key card and an upgrade for my troubles. On my favorite floor, we encountered the hardest fight of the museum, 2 flash kicks and a juggernaut. Before I died, I made sure to take one of the girls out with me. It felt like I was at the club all over again with the amount of times I died to those kicks. After many many deaths. I was blessed with RNG that had 2 of them watch patiently waiting for their turn as I took out one of the girls. The second one went down next because I knew I had a better chance against the Juggernaut one-on-one. Can we take a second to appreciate the beautiful art design that went in for this exhibit? The game developers did their thing with this one. The second bodyguard got the same treatment as his buddy downstairs. I didn't bring a weapon with me, so he got nothing but straight hands. The last hurdle to jump over before we get to the boss is the flash kicks with blades for feet. I made sure to grab the staff before the fight, and the staff helped build up resolve of the flash kicks so I could defeat them faster. I kept the other girl at a distance so I could have a fair fight. What I'm most proud of is that I didn't get hit by them during the fight, and these are technically the hardest flash kicks to fight in the game. We get a key and an upgrade, and we've reached the boss battle versus Kuroki. For me, she is the hardest boss because she has a lot of omnidirectional moves that cover a lot of distance, making it difficult to go in to counterattack, and those blades melted my health away. Her scariest move is the one where she chases you around while swinging her staff, and she will always catch up to me. Since she gets to have blades, why can't I? I was able to outrun her swinging staff attack twice, and on the second time, I was able to get a counterattack in. I had to take damage on the front end to deal damage on the back end. It didn't always go as planned though. The thigh cut was a lifesaver, and building up focus for it was easy once I got the timing of her moves down. I got her down to around the same amount of health that I had, and it would come down to whoever could get off a combo the quickest. It all came down to this. I took a hit and I parried her last move to get enough focus to finish her first phase. The next phase was all about becoming a parry god. I liked her second phase more than the first. This phase is more fast paced and she comes to you instead of the other way around. The downside is that I have to be ready at all times to parry her, because if I don't, she'll begin to smell blood in the water and do what feels like a never ending combo. And those blades were no joke. I can't stress that enough. The worst move to get hit by was that dash. To overcome this, I had to become the parry god. It took a lot of deaths to get here, but practice makes perfect, and having 2 focus bars at the ready never hurt anyone. The plan was simple: be patient and parry all her attacks until I had enough focus to sweep or eye poke her. I didn't always come out without a scratch, but I made sure to get the most out of the exchanges, and the counterattacks would have a bigger effect. When I got her stunned and strung this combo together, I knew the end was near. I only needed a little more focus to fill up the meter, and that would do it for Kuroki, and we can move on to the tower. The tower was the unluckiest level for me. Whatever could go wrong went wrong. I didn't have to fight anyone in the lobby, but my overconfident self after I defeated Kuroki felt like I was on the top of the world. And with just my luck, I died for the first time in the beginning of the level at the hands of the bodyguard. Ego bruised, I went straight to the elevator and took my anger out on this guy. In the office, I got a clutch double KO on these two. The female bodyguard was a different story. I had to work for this victory, but she was not letting up. I almost died, but thankfully she couldn't catch the knife. Don't worry though, my death came soon enough in the surveillance room. I did take some people out before I met my demise. I left the strongest fighters alive, and they were both mini bosses, so that ended well. This time I decided to whittle their health down as I fought the others. As the fight went on, their health went lower and lower. Eventually they were taken care of. In the next room I made another dumb decision by making a mini boss, and I would have cleared this room first try if that didn't happen. I didn't leave it to chance this time. I took out the rest of the room in swift fashion, with the help of my favorite weapon, the knife. Finally an upgrade. The elevator shaft fight was the easiest part of the level. At this point the Juggernaut was just a regular henchman that ate at too many buffets, and I fought too many mini bosses already, so they weren't even a threat. After I take out the flash kick in the secret society room, we get an upgrade, and I got my first non-combat death. And that wasn't the only one. Next is the most dangerous room of the level, where I fight a flash kick and a bodyguard. I chalk this up to beginner's luck, and I'm not complaining either, but this is where I died the most on the tower level. The only thing standing in my way of the boss was this disciple with a staff. They're much easier to deal with when they have the staff, because the swings are easy to dodge and they won't be free to do cheesy combos. One last upgrade and we've reached Jin Fang. I spent a few minutes gauging the range of her attacks until I got enough of a feel for it, and once I got the courage to run in, that turned out to be a huge mistake. To create distance, she would do a push that destroyed my resolve, and then a sweep and an overhead shot that led to my death. The sweep was the most effective. In the weapon room, I spotted this in the corner, and I shit you not, it took me only 2 thigh cuts and she was in her second phase. Going into her second phase, thigh cuts seemed to be the way to go. I just had to get close to her to pull it off. Another thing to look out for was the grab. For a lady with one arm, she does the most amount of damage of the bosses, and man, she packs a punch. In this attempt, I fell behind in the damage column, but good thing I still had the machete. Keeping my distance wasn't working out, so I had to blitz her and give no breathing room. I clutched up and managed to parry her next couple of moves, and that gave me enough focus to do one last thigh cut and a couple more machete slashes, and we can put Jin Feng out to pasture and move on to the sanctuary. We made it to the get good part of the game. Everything I learned in 42 game hours over the span of 13 days has come to this. The last stage between me and being the Sifu age 20 challenge. That gets put to the test in the massage room against two handsy bodyguards who didn't want to give me a happy ending. To curb their aggressiveness, I had to keep them separated, and I used the shelf as a makeshift divider. But I made the mistake of cornering myself here, and I got punished. I couldn't afford to get grabbed like that again, but I could take a hit. They were down to 3 hits or less, so I liked my chances to get it done. In the garden, I made the mistake of being over aggressive, and it cost me another restart. Back at it again in the garden, I got good, and we defeated every type of enemy in the game. First the henchman, then the juggernaut, the flash kick, my favorite, the bodyguard, and lastly, the disciple. The moment has finally come to fight Yang in Chinese Kill Bill. The first couple of attempts were painful to experience. He was too shifty for me to deal damage. His combos were so fast and it was hard for me to get the timing down. Can't use my focus on him, so I feel like I wasted a couple upgrades. And the worst of it all was that he wouldn't attack unless I engaged with him first. Eventually I came to the conclusion that in order to defeat him, I had to work smarter, not harder. His health bar was a decent size, and I wasn't that good enough at the game to do that strategy, but what I could go after was his resolve. It only goes down whenever there's a period of stagnation, so my plan was to bait him into attacking, parry his moves, and then counterattack. I had to do that constantly in order to defeat his first phase. The fight was only a minute 40, but it felt like 3. In his second phase, he became more aggressive, and all of his combos had a glowing attack that dealt a lot of damage. There was one attack in particular that caught my attention. This wall run kick that I was able to parry and counterattack afterwards. It was the only attack of his that I could successfully defend against. I tested this out a couple more times. When I moved away from the wall, he went back to using his other attacks. So in my next attempt, I glued myself to the walls of the arena and prepared for the attack to come. The counterattack combo basically did chip damage, but it would add up over time. I had to drift away from the wall to turn at the corner. There were some times where I got sloppy and he got close enough to land some hits, but it went back to status quo and I continued my strategy. This method is extremely effective, and I'm surprised to see that there's not a post or video showing this, so I must be the first person to find out about this. I give the Yang wall run cheese method a 10 out of 10 for its effectiveness and for helping me beat the Sifu age 20 no death challenge. It was pretty insane to do a no death run on my first playthrough, but it only took me 2 weeks to finish, and I'm really proud of myself for completing it. I had tons of fun making this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Have fun, be safe, and be smart. See you in the next video.